How you doing, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Michigan High School Hangtime, the Hoops podcast. We are fired up. We are ready to go. Scott Burnstein, TJ Kelley here. We're going to talk about a lot this week, a lot of big games happening just this past weekend. Obviously, what happened on Tuesday, we had some great stuff. Scott and I were at a stunner, if that's what you want to call it. So we're going to get into all of that. Matt Mowery will be here. Dan Young and TJ Kelley are going to go toe-to-toe in our BCAM segment as we kind of talk about the state of summer basketball, team camps, reaching higher, that whole kind of thing. So you want to make sure you tune in for that. But first, I want to thank our sponsors, of course, the MHSAA, Hungry Howies. We're presented by Lawrence Technological University and BCAM themselves. So let's get into it. Some hang time highlights. I know we had some championship action that took place in the MAC over the weekend. Talk about some of what went down.
Romeo Weems went down. Caleb Bates. Well, they didn't go down. They went up. But let's say this, and definitely in the scoring column, they were lifted, and yeah, New Haven wound up beating Roseville, St. Clair, Lakeshore, led by Caleb Bates. Huge game, 44 points, 17
Bates
rebounds.
Bates is putting up
like
video game-like numbers this year.
Yeah.
Just been a stat monger. And I would like to see some Division II schools kind of start getting in on him. I know that his recruiting's been a little slow, but this is a guy that's putting in over 30 a night, and he's 6'7", and he can go inside out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in my opinion, I think that he'll probably get those opportunities because they're more than likely going to play Roseville, and I know that quite a few guys are going to be in to see Big John O over at Roseville. But then also, how about East Detroit? East Point beats Warren Lincoln. I mean, you talk about two programs that are probably going to wind up making a little bit of a resurgence. I'm not even sure that there should be a resurgence just because of, ever since 1966, as somebody was pointing out earlier today.
What division are they in?
They are in the
playoffs? In the state playoffs?
They're both in, Warren Lincoln's in B and
two.
Division II, and I believe East Point's in Division One.
Division One. Okay, I didn't know if East Point would be big enough to be in Division One.
I believe the big boss man here, Lupin Hante,
East
Detroit alum, played for the basketball, played basketball and football.
Yeah,
we were just talking about that before.
He was just bragging about. Well, let's say this: they were undefeated, 27-0. I got the whole spiel.
Yep.
They beat Ferndale twice in the season.
Yep.
Lost to Ferndale.
At the Jennison Fieldhouse.
At the Jennison Fieldhouse.
They beat a Cass Tech team, they beat a Mumford team in the regional finals that had Steve Fishman, the attorney, and Larry Moore, who's the former West Bloomfield boys and girls coach, whose grandson, Donovan Moore, is one of the best players in the state.
And West Bloomfield's actually had a couple.
They had a chance to win recently. At the buzzer, did East Detroit back then. They 5 seconds ago went up, thought he was fouled, missed the shot. Game over.
Darn double rims, 20th century double rims. Playing with chain link fence, chain link nets.
We digress.
Yes,
East Point.
But Nate Manoy is the new head coach. If the name is familiar, played at Purdue, transferred over to Central Michigan. And kind of looking over at him, I'm like, guy, it looks kind of familiar. But for them to win, I think that this was a 14th or 15th win of the season. That's probably more wins than they've had the past 3 or 4 years. I've watched some really bad East Detroit teams.
Right.
Probably the first time I ever left a game early was watching East Detroit, and I think that might have been in the second quarter. And I was just like, I got to get out of here. This isn't healthy for me.
Right.
But hats off to East Detroit. Just changing everything around there. Wydell Henry over at Warren Lincoln, the new head coach there. Turning some things around there, and so hey, it's good to see a little bit of some resurgence.
Yeah.
And some new blood. I mean, I really like the coaches. That are young and that are in Macomb County. And if you look at some of the guys that are retiring, I know Voss at Chippewa Valley, he's retiring. I know I'm not going to speak on what Essler's going to do and some of these other guys, but in the maybe next 5-6 years, but to have some guys that are far away from AARP.
Yeah,
this is the first
and with Roseville losing, still they're super young coach, again a team that
Coach Niz, what a great job, great job by Coach Niz.
Yeah, tons of energy. Hats off to Darrell France for the vindication
fulfilling all the expectations that you had set for them, and
then also beating Roseville, who they lost to earlier, and their only blemish.
Yeah, we also had the Detroit Catholic League championships.
Yeah, I was out there Saturday night. Usually it's a Sunday afternoon affair. They made it a nightcap this year at Callahan. 5 o'clock was the CD game where Royal Oak Shrine beat Ann Arbor Green Hills for their second CHSL title in 4 years. Coach Jim Skaggs has done a good job coming in there and getting that program back to prominence. They got the Masucci brothers, AJ and Anthony, both played really well. AJ had 15, Anthony had 20. They're the sons of Mike Masucci, the former Shrine coach, former Royal Oak coach, former Kirk Keener assistant on some of those Shane Battier state title teams. And then in the primetime affair, the main event, UD Jesuit went for their seventh straight Catholic League AB division title.
Unprecedented.
Unprecedented. The most we talked about on the last episode. The most anyone had reeled off in a row before that was 4 straight, and that was back in the 1950s. They've now upped the ante by 3, and just played a great game of basketball. We're firing on all cylinders, doing it inside, doing it outside, doing it with defense. Julian Dozier just continues to impress me. This guy is just a force of nature in the backcourt, someone who plays so much bigger than his size. He's only about 5'9", 5'10", and he's a Division I recruit as a small guy. But if this guy was 6'2", 6'3", he'd be going high major. He does everything to make your team win. He's a leader. He's a facilitator. He can score. He scored 25 points, had 8 assists, 5 steals, 5 rebounds, was just imposing his will all over the hardwood. Jalen Thomas, their rim protector, headed to UMass, 13 points, 10 rebounds, 6 blocks, and they were some big blocks down the stretch to keep Catholic Central at bay. Catholic Central just really hit a wall. It was a very close game, back and forth for most of the game, and then the final 4 minutes, Jesuit went into lockdown mode on defense and only allowed 1 field goal in the final 4 minutes from Catholic Central. Justin Rucat for CC continues to have just a breakout year. He's a center. He was really good his sophomore and junior year. This year he's great. He can go outside and can hit the 3 now. He had 18 points, 14 rebounds. Was really their I don't want to say their lone bright spot, but a bright spot. Davis Lukomsky, their senior forward, had 15 points and about 7 rebounds. But I expect Catholic Central to make a run. I expect them to get out of their district and make some noise in the regionals. Jesuit, frankly,
we talked about it before that we think
I think this is Breslin or bust.
Yeah.
I expect them to be in the state finals, if not raising a banner and bringing that state title home that they had a couple years ago in the Cassius Winston era.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to see them again when they play Cass Tech here on Friday at Callahan Hall.
Operation Friendship.
Operation Friendship. And before then, you've got Catholic Central and Renaissance.
Yeah.
Cass Tech wound up beating Renaissance in the PSL championship.
Handily.
Handily. And that was, it was a packed house at Cass Tech. I know a lot of people are talking about, should they have it at Cobo? They should have it at University of Detroit.
Yeah.
My thing is economically efficiency thinking, to have it at Cass Tech. And, there probably were 50 people, 100 people maybe that didn't get into the game.
Yeah.
But the crowd was electric.
It didn't feel stuffed.
No, not at
because they kind of cleared the the track up top. They they were really good about keeping people off of there. So it felt more open and breathable. But I
actually was on the track. So.
yeah. Well, yeah.
I was hanging out with Brian Ellerby from Morgan State. He was here watching a couple of guys.
Well, and they have the
from
little
Renaissance
suite up there too.
Yeah. I think that's great. Yeah. They should that should be the VIP.
Yeah, the VIP,
and then put up another TV or something like that. Watch whatever's going on ESPN during halftime.
Yeah, I went there and filmed that, and they were great.
Yeah,
and they were so. We're going to talk about depth in this because when we get to the Oxford team, we can talk about depth and. Cass just kept rolling players out, and they just kept hitting big shots.
Yeah.
15 off the bench for.
Was it?
I don't have my.
Was it Josh Harris?
No, it wasn't Josh. It was. Oh well.
Let's say this. They had a lot of guys that were
all
scoring.
Threes. They were all threes.
Yeah.
And it was from third quarter on, and everybody played great, and unfortunately, Renaissance was just outmatched.
Right. I talked to Steve too after the game, and I think that he mentioned that maybe he's only the second coach, maybe third coach ever to win PSL titles with 2 different teams. He wound up winning in Northwestern with Eric Evans, Julian Gentry. back then, and they did a fantastic job there. Now that this is his third PSL title, know that Perry Watson has 3. Imagine that Coach Golston has 3 over at Pershing. We'll see who else has. Probably can look through the record books and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Steve's putting himself in, or Coach Hall is putting himself into elite company. When that happens, he's already got some state titles.
He's got 3 state championship rings
in
the Class D rank.
Yeah. So
Rogers.
With
Eric Evans, by the way.
With Eric Evans,
we brought from Rogers to Northwest.
When Rogers closed.
Yeah. Right. I got my note. Daniel Autry came off the bench, dropped 15 points, all from 3-point range.
He's my sniper extraordinaire in the PSL, best shooter in the city.
Yeah. No, exactly. Again, when I was doing the highlights, so many guys were getting it done. I want to give also
Khalil Whitehead had a nice game.
He did. He was solid right off the bat. Played really well, but the guys we don't often talk about in.
But the Hill kid played all right.
Anthony Kiles.
Played
really well. He was hitting threes. He was hitting uncontested. Again, it was 58-43 after 3. Cass hit 50% from the field in the game. So
it's tough to lose.
So they rolled.
Tough to beat teams that are doing.
Yeah, exactly. I know you guys. Just looking at our notes, Brother Rice had a big shot over Douglas.
They're playing well down the stretch. They got a winnable district. Ricky Palmer coming over there, coming out of hibernation from the last 5 years, was a big part of that, the back end of that Country Day dynasty. Learned under Kurt Keener, and he's coming in, implementing a lot of that Keener basketball, winning basketball at Brother Rice. And they encountered some growing pains early on, and it's tough playing in that Catholic League Central, but. They've looked good these last couple of weeks. I know that they won in the showcase over the weekend, and they won again. I believe they beat Port Huron Northern this last couple days.
Does that say how tough the Catholic League is, though?
Yeah.
I mean, what they won 1 or 2 games if that.
Yeah.
In the so, and then we've also got U of D, and U of D is the front runner in my opinion, probably in our opinion. To win the Division I title.
I would say so.
They're the favorites. If you want to win in the district,
they'll come after us. So
they got and Rice has a quiet assassin, just a silent assassin, a quiet assassin, however you want to say it. And John Brantley, he's only a junior, one of the leading scorers in Metro Detroit.
And he's one who hit the shot.
He hit the game-winning 3 against Douglas and their star Pierre Brooks over the weekend at Bradford. So. With him and sophomore Miko Stewart, who got eligible at the MLK break, came over from Country Day. The future's bright at Brother Rice, and I expect them next year to be a player in that Catholic League race.
I could definitely see. I think anything under 500 would kind of be, not within the game plan. But then again, finish in 500. Even in the Catholic League, even though UOD loses a lot, I think that, and as well as Catholic Central, I still think that it'll be a pretty tough league.
Let's get in quickly with what happened last night, and when I say last night, meaning Tuesday, and that was Oxford and Pontiac getting together for the OAA Blue title.
The atmosphere was so insane.
Right.
The intensity was so thick you could have cut it with a knife.
No doubt. Just
electric at the Cy Green Gymnasium at the old Pontiac Northern High School, which is now Pontiac High School. The buzz that surrounded that game, the capacity crowd. The city of Pontiac hasn't experienced that, and this is a hoop mecca. And they haven't experienced that in over a decade. So it was really special to be in the gym and be a part of that.
Yeah.
Now, that all said...
And then they started the game.
As great of an atmosphere as it was as non-competitive as a game as it was. Because Oxford came in there, the OA Blue title on the line, 2 teams that were 17-1, slugging it out, and... it was like Drago versus Apollo in Rocky IV, where Oxford came in there.
Most of Mike Tyson's early career.
They just landed a number of haymakers.
So they got hit in the mouth. The game plan, the plan changed.
No response, and Oxford was just off to the races. They annihilated the Phoenix 76-39.
And it wasn't that close.
Clock.
It wasn't that close. Wow.
It wasn't that close.
Oxford was, in my opinion, this game was a warning shot to Clarkston, who they could face next week in the district finals. And Clarkston's last loss this year was to Pontiac.
Right.
And this was Oxford going into Pontiac's own crib in a full gym and punking the Phoenix.
Yes.
And kind of sending a a greetings card to Clarkson. We'll be waiting for you next week.
Yeah.
And if you think we're a pushover, you think again, because we're gunning for that crown. We're gunning to knock you off of the pedestal, and we're going to make it so you don't get a three-peat.
By the way, we'll have the highlights of that game on State Champs this Sunday at 9 a.m. Fox Sports Detroit. We'll have it up on social media here by Thursday night. So if that's when you're watching this, it's probably up there already. You want to see who were the standouts, and there were several.
Yeah, Clarkson's got a great front court.
To my Oxford.
What did I say?
You said Clarkson.
Sorry.
But again, if you watch them, was our point. Like, we were talking with the Oxford scorekeeper after the game, and she's like, all we got is Clarkson on our mind, Clarkson in the district. But you watch them, they wear the blue and yellow uniform. It looked like Clarkson.
They play discipline.
They play like Clarkson.
They can shoot the ball.
Yeah.
They're tough on the blocks.
Right.
They match up very well.
Skinny guards.
They match up well with Clarkson.
Decent
it's a good
size.
matchup for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, Oxford,
real stars.
They have a tremendous front court in Mike Raish and Trey Townsend. Mike Raish, I call him the hardest.
Talking about Trey Townsend.
Hardest work. Mike Raish to me is the hardest working man in the OAA. Just a walking, talking human floor burn. A type of guy that is just the definition of a workhorse, a Sir Grind a lot. 21 points, 12 rebounds. Just has a motor that's going 150 miles an hour, baseline to baseline, all four quarters. Trey Townsend could be the most underrated college recruit in the whole OAA as a wing.
You can almost go by the state. In my opinion, he's all of a MAC. He's a 6'6", all of a Horizon.
He's a 6'6" wing with swagger and savvy and intelligence,
killer
athleticism.
Killer instinct.
A slasher who can also shoot. His little brother Zach Townsend, who's a sophomore, looked really good. He had 15. Trey had 19, 15 in the first half.
Just couldn't stop him.
And then you got a nice backcourt of guys that are more than serviceable. Logan Coughlin, the point guard, Connor Nicholson, the shooting guard, and then Dejon Williams is a nice combo. And those guys, they'll be able to hold their own against that Clarkston freshman phenom backcourt of Keegan Wasilk and Fletcher Lawyer. And then
because defensively they just don't stop. You know what I mean? They just and the great thing again is their depth is where guys
they were rolling guys in. They were playing 8-9 guys and playing fast.
No drop off. No drop off.
Playing fast and furious and smart. And they rolled, man. They were. They were just juggernauts last night.
And we were talking too. This is new. This is uncharted waters for them. This is their first league title.
First league title in 5 years, but only the second league title in 40 years.
40 years.
And the one they won a couple years back was the OAA Gold, which I used to kind of jokingly call the OAA Pink, which was the lower tier
Scott
of the
Burnstein
OAA that they've now eliminated. So now that was when there was 4 OAA conferences. Now they're down to 3. And this was the lowest one, the blue, and it was a battle. I mean, it was a real war for that OA blue title between Ferndale, Oxford, and Pontiac.
Who they lost to. Oxford's only loss was to Ferndale a week ago Monday or something.
Ferndale's going to be tough. I just saw them last night. And
they're gaining steam as the year goes on.
And I think the thing is, guys are finding out. Juan Rickman coming over. I mean, he knows the guys that he knows. But what other guys are on that team?
Well, everyone was talking about the transfers, and
only one of them
got eligible. That was Sudi McElroy, but he's a game changer, averaging 25 a night. But a guy that was there when Juan got there, that in my opinion, probably the most improved player in the OAA and the entire OAA, Tiante McKeithen.
I mean the kid shot it. Let's say this. I want to say that you're bringing the most improved. Sometimes that coaching system. Because Juan comes over and he wants his guys to shoot it. I mean, look at Kamari Newman. Look at some of the guys that that he's had in the past. I mean, Sudi, for example. Sudi's never met a shot that he. I mean, it's like 35 feet. Let me step in. Let me step in. And now I'm at 30 and I'm comfortable.
Sudi's range starts in the parking lot.
But the kid loves to shoot the ball. And I think the one thing with McKeithen is now he's in an opportunity where he does get to shoot the ball, especially earlier in the season when, they were still trying to find out if Sudi was going to be eligible or not. And the thing is, they want to beat in Harrison pretty square. I think that Ferndale has an opportunity. That district, that region, they've got Warren, Lincoln, we just talked about, but I really I think that Ferndale has a chance to make it out of that. And then I think they would go on to play like the Pontiacs, New Havens, and stuff like that, where I don't think that they're going to get that far. But, McKeithen did not play last night, so we'll see what's going on with that. I mean, he was on the bench in street clothes, so so maybe it was just a little bit of rest before the playoffs start and before a long planned run by the Rickman Eagles.
Okay,
quick. The Rickman Net Rippers.
Yeah,
the Rickman Net Rippers.
Lastly, and just super quick because we're already running long, is Pioneer beats King. Are we concerned about King? And I know they've had, obviously they play great competition.
I mean, Pioneer's got at least two Division I kids on their roster.
Yeah,
I know they do.
Pioneer was solid. Drew Lauder was really solid. Going to Holy Cross.
Yeah, to me, he's the top pure point guard
he's great.
in this senior class.
Yeah,
I love what Drew Lauder brings.
Yeah. I mean, he makes shots. Keshawn Pryor, the 6'8" unsigned senior. Temple was there. Oakland was there watching him.
I don't think that's a bad loss.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's a bad loss. In looking at King, I think that in the semifinals when they're playing Renaissance, they're looking towards Cass. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong.
Right.
But I think that they're looking towards Cass in Game 3, towards Game 3, and then kind of the lull, like, hey, we wanted to win the city title. We're not winning a city title. Here we are playing against Pioneer. It was a good, but it just doesn't have the same value to them, in my opinion, as a city championship. But hats off to Pioneer.
Yeah.
I think that they're a team that, hey, let's say this next Wednesday, you give me Pioneer, give me Huron, give me Ypsi, and give me Ypsi Lincoln, all playing at Belleville. Get there about 3:00 in the afternoon.
Right.
2:30.
Right.
As soon get lunch if you can.
Yeah, and kudos to Hanover Horton.
Yes.
Who takes down Ypsilanti Lincoln last night.
Number 2 team in Division 3. I really liked them when I saw them play earlier in the season. January 26th at Belleville in the Fast Break Invitational. They lost to a really good Toledo St. Francis team. And I saw the AP poll. They dropped them, and a couple of other. I was pretty much convinced that the only team that would have a chance of beating Toledo St. Francis in Division 3 is Flint Beecher, and that's why they're number 1. And I'm keeping Hanover Horton at 2 for the last few weeks.
Got it. Quickly, what's up with your rankings? What's going on?
I mean, pretty much Division 1. I mean, everybody's staying pretty much at the top there. Benton Harbor beats Rouge, the former number 1 team in Division 2. So I want to move in Benton Harbor up. I want to move in New Haven up to number 1 because they want to win in their MAC championship. I think I moved Benton Harbor to number 2. Williamston, I bumped them down to 3, even though they can, either easily be number 2, they could be number 1, they could be number 4. But I really think that the top 4 teams, and then I moved Rouge down to 4. I think that those 4 teams are the teams to beat in the state title. I mean, you can flip coins all day long.
Yep.
But those are the teams to beat, and any one of them can win on any given day.
Okay. All right. So we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to go into the grab bag, some Mr. Basketball power rankings, and we'll have some state playoff dark horses and favorites. So that's coming up right after the break.
Fundraising should be fresh, flavorful, and simple. We have the perfect solution at Hungry Howie's. Dough Raiser. Your team or school can sell paper pizza certificates that can be redeemed for 1 medium pizza at participating locations.
We've been doing this fundraiser for about 4 years, and it's the easiest and best and most profitable fundraiser they have in Michigan.
Go to doughraiser.com to learn more and sign up. Your next fundraiser comes with flavored crust. Welcome to Hungry Howie's Dough Raiser.
All right, welcome back to Michigan High School Hang Time. This is the Hoops Podcast. We are getting into our grab bag now. We kind of give a topic to each of the gentlemen, and we're going to talk first, Mr. Basketball Power Rankings.
Yeah, so I did a power ranking, and really, the runaway front runner is Romeo Weems. He's probably going to win the award, but we got to talk about the rest of the field, and it is wide open. So number 1, with a bullet, Romeo Weems, New Haven, 6'7", swingman, headed to DePaul. I got my number 2, Daniel Friday. Doesn't put up the gaudy stats that Romeo puts up, but man, is he a complete player that does everything that you need to win just a competitor, a winning spirit, everything you want in a playmaker. Daniel Friday, 6'4" guard from Jesuit, headed to Brown, going to play in the Ivy League. And then it really kind of gets a little murky. Dylan Juergens, the best, maybe the best small school player in the state in terms of production. He's averaging like 40 a night right now. He's tracking towards becoming the MHSAA's all-time leading scorer.
That's George Jackson.
Wow. He's over at Howardsville Christian. So you got to give him a look. He is just the definition of a gunner.
You would think.
I got number 4. I got Joe Moon, Moneyball Moon. Really came out of nowhere this year to establish a Mr. Basketball candidacy. Opened the season with a 37, 38-point games back to back. Kind of announced his presence with authority. Yep. And has kept it rolling since then.
School's all-time leading scorer now.
Yeah, Chandler Turner at Renaissance is my number 5, best player in the PSL.
Yeah, Mr. PSL.
A stat stuffer, a guy that does it both rebounding, scoring. He's a slasher. Has done a great job of keeping that whole team on the right track, keeping everyone together when it could have been very easy to crumble after Carrington McCaskill left.
Yeah, he certainly wasn't the reason they lost in the PSL championship.
No,
he did what he could do, right. and especially in the second half,
outstanding second half. A little slow on the first half, but
then I got B. Artist White over at Canton. He's Benny White's son.
They beat John Glenn not too long ago.
A lightning quick point guard that he's a combo because he's a guy that is a true point in the sense that he can distribute, he can facilitate, he can quarterback an offense, but man, he can score too.
Yes,
and he's got he's just a blazer in the open court, and a guy that can fill it up from deep. Caleb Hodgins from Danville, one of the best centers in the senior class, if not the best center in the senior class. He's going to Central Michigan. Really fundamentally sound, great footwork down in the paint. Sirquarius Ball, to me, the best candidate out of the Flint area. He's a football player. He's going to play football, I believe, at Grand Valley State. But on the basketball floor, he can do a lot of damage. Brings the thunder. And then I got Drew Lauder and Ryan Wade from Ann Arbor as my guys kind of in the back end of that top 10. Lauder, in my opinion, the purest point guard in the senior class. He's at Pioneer, headed to Holy Cross, and then Ryan Wade, more of a wing, also headed to Holy Cross.
Yeah.
And then I got some sleepers. Caleb Bates, we were just talking about, the scoring machine from St. Clair. John Ukamadu from Roseville. It's got to get a little love. And then Isaiah Lewis at Wayne Memorial is a guy that's been scoring at a similar clip to Joe Moon. Out of that same league.
Constant motor.
And then the last guy I'll shout out, Zach Goodline from Coloma, small school guy going to play, I believe, at the NAIA level at Huntington. But anytime at the high school level that you score over 2,000 points, you deserve some props.
Yeah,
so
2,000 is 2,000.
Yeah.
Or what people say, 50 is 50.
That's right.
I'll be like, you're scoring only 49. That's close enough. Round up. Whenever you get up above 45.
State playoff Darkhorses and Favorites.
Yep. So we've already talked about a little bit about University of Detroit Jesuit. I think that they're going to be the front runner.
Yeah.
We could have the opportunity to see, and I would love it to see, I think it'd be great, a Final Four of Cass Tech, UD Jesuit, Clarkston, and Muskegon, Hudsonville, Matawan, maybe the dark horse coming out of there. They are undefeated. They just beat Kalamazoo Central.
Nolan Foster, Dexter
Schaus. And so they have to play Kalamazoo Central in the districts at their place. I think Matawan can win again. If that winds up happening, then they'll more than likely have to battle it out with Okemos at some point in the regionals.
If Dexter Schaus had been in Michigan for all 4 years, he came over from Indianapolis this year. Mm-hmm. He's a guy that could have been in the Mr. Basketball race.
Yeah,
right? He's going to Coastal Carolina.
Yep.
Another guy that's just a workhorse, 6'5", 6'6", and attacks the basket with ferocity and can score the ball.
High energy,
plays great defense.
High energy. So I think Matawan has a chance to, create some paths. Not a lot of people are talking about them. They are still undefeated, though.
Yeah.
But I think the MHSA will be very happy. I don't really see any. I think Carmen Ainsworth, they didn't play Clarkston last week because of the snow.
Right.
I think that Carmen Ainsworth could give Clarkston a little bit of trouble. I think that battle at Davison in the regional is going to be absolutely phenomenal.
Cade Coleman.
Yep. Renaissance they have to beat University of Detroit Jesuit, and that's going to be in the second round, I believe, or next Wednesday in districts. I'm not sure that they can do that. I don't know if they have the guard play to get by the superior guard or the outstanding senior guards over at UD Jesuit.
Yeah, and we said earlier in the show that don't sleep on Oxford. If they and Clarkson get together, it could be at some. It could be.
I just think they match up well.
Yeah, they really do.
Let's say this. I don't think that in past years, all right, you had the Cassius-led UD Jesuit team. That team was going to win.
Correct.
Clarkston, that team was going to win. I don't as much as I think that University of Detroit Jesuit is the favorite.
Yes,
it's not.
There's no team this year you're looking at and you're like
done deal for.
It's going to be real.
Anybody.
The Operation Friendship game will be very interesting to see how that plays out. Obviously, Cass has got a lot of swag and confidence right now, and they feel they're as deep as anybody. How they handle that will be real interesting.
But that makes for an exciting tournament.
Yes.
In fact, there is no clear cut.
I think it's great. And the other thing is everybody's coming in with an optimistic, and philosophy.
It's there for the taking.
Wow, this is here. That's my five. You see a quarter laying on the ground, pick it up like an old man.
Right.
Maybe a nickel.
Right.
Well,
no, you're right. And in Division 2, you're right. River Rouge says we can definitely win.
Yep.
Ben Harbor says
Ben Harbor just said we can beat them. New Haven's ticked off because they haven't.
You won it 2 years ago. We got to the Final Four last year.
And so I think, but we've had a great preview of now these guys are all seniors about what we've seen in Class B, now Division 2 over the last few years, and seeing River Rouge now. Is Williamston going to give River Rouge a little bit of a hiccup?
Right.
I mean, they could very well do that.
Grand Rapids Catholic Central might roll through their
South
side.
Christian is one of those scary teams where they were a top 10 team, and they always hover. They're been a little bit maybe out of the top 10 early, but then they want to beat in Catholic Central. They want to beat in some of these other teams.
I like Glen Lake in Division 3.
Yeah, Division 3. Glen, you've got Glen Lake.
I mean, Beecher's great.
Yeah,
but again, they can.
Powama, Westphalia. They're that mid-Michigan powerhouse that, I mean, if you I was a kid wound up going to Northwood a couple of years ago. I was killing Nick Spolsky
from Powama.
Yeah. But anyway, he wound up leading them to to the Breslin a few years ago.
Yeah.
I think that while Beecher is the front runner there, I don't think that it's not out of the question to put Powama, Westphalia, to put Hanover, Horton, to put some of these other teams, out of it. I go back to Division 2. I like Chandler Park Academy. I think that a lot of people are sleeping on Chandler Park, and they're just rolling.
Andre Bradford.
They're rolling through all their teams, and they've got a ton of seniors on that team. Now you go to Division 4. I think Division 4. We've talked about Southfield Christian. This is, if they're the front runners. Even though they're not
defending champs.
Yeah, defending champs.
But I've said Novi. If somehow Novi Christian can spring the upset in the district finals, I expect Novi Christian to be playing at Breslin.
Let's say
Mackenzie Blackwell.
Novi Christian's enrollment will jump up if they beat Southfield Christian, and they'll never be in Division 4 again. But the team that I like is out of Division 4 is Battle Creek St. Philip. I mean, I don't think that they're going to make it to the Breslin. I think that they can cause enough problems with the Bellevues, with the Athens, with the Camden Frontier, some of these other teams that they have a chance to see in along the way. But as you look through the record, they played this team pretty tight. They played this, and you don't know how the fouls went. You don't know if somebody was sick or something like that. So if guys that can play, they're used to playing in tight games. It obviously helps with their experience. But then also winning tight games helps build the confidence, which there are usually a lot of tough games or tight games when you come to the playoffs.
We will have highlights of the KLAA boys basketball title game from Thursday, and we will have Lakeland Walled Lake Northern's game. That's the main event, the LVC
championship game is at Northern, and then when the state tournament starts a couple days later, it's at Lakeland.
Yes, exactly. So we'll also have some boys basketball action from, I believe, the Lansing area. We'll have it this week, so you'll be able to look forward to that. And we're going to talk girls next here on the podcast, so make sure you stick around that. Matt Mowery with BCAM.
Coaching basketball is a rewarding and challenging pursuit, but you don't have to do it alone. The Basketball Coaches Association of Michigan are here to support you.
BCAM is the largest coaches association in the country with nearly 6,000 members representing college, high school, and middle school ranks. Members have access to drills, clinics, job opportunities, and it's the only way to vote for our annual awards, including Mr. and Miss Basketball.
Join today by visiting bcam.org. because better coaching always matters.
All right, welcome back to Hangtime. Matt Mowery now in the seat, the digital managing editor for StateChampsNetwork.com, which, by the way, is where you get all this stuff we talk about here on the podcast. So, you want to see the rankings, you want to see stories, you want to see Bernie's Bites, his blogs, TJ's rankings. Again, all that stuff is at StateChampsNetwork.com. We tweet it out, but it's all linking to one hub, and that is the heartbeat of State Champs, which is StateChampsNetwork.com. So we want to talk girls hoops now in our weekly segment, and had a big one.
Yeah.
Number 3, Lansing, East Lansing. Number 4, DeWitt getting together.
They bumped up spots. They were 2 and 3 this week.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, and again, this was big for DeWitt.
It was big for DeWitt because they hadn't lost to anybody other than East Lansing in almost 3 seasons. The last other team other than East Lansing to beat them, their last 5 losses were against East Lansing.
Wow.
The last team to beat them was in January, I believe, of 2017. It was Waverly. So it had been a while. I mean, they'd gone 21-2 each of the last 2 seasons. And as Coach Bill McCullen said after he felt like there was, for his senior class, this class of kids that's had huge success on the basketball court, there was a hole in their resume because they hadn't made any long runs in the tournament because they kept running into East Lansing in the district finals, and 21-1 seasons go poof when you run up against a team that has your number.
Yeah.
And so for them to kind of get that monkey off their back on Monday night was huge. Certainly, it's one of those that after a while, when you have success against everybody else except one team, it can get in your brain a little bit. And so they got that monkey off their back, and they knew they kind of had to concentrate because they still had a little road to go to cinch up a chair of the league title. They knew they had a game Tuesday night, and then they went to St. John's, and they lost to St. John's by 4. So that's one of those things that happens when you play back-to-backs and you have, that huge, momentous, emotional game, and then it's hard to keep to carry that over, especially one night later. So
no doubt about it. And the emotion, huge high and then a huge low, losing in that one. But that's the way the cookie crumbles. Otherwise, again, good for them. And, the main thing is that now prepares them for districts. I think they feel going into that, that they will be.
Well, the next part is they're split up this time. They're not in the same district, I believe, and so they'll at least have a chance.
Nice.
If I'm remembering that correctly, they'll have a chance to go in their separate directions. It was interesting. You knew it was a big game when you started seeing players from other teams who were not playing. There were some kids from Williamston who are AAU teammates with some of those DeWitt kids were showing up, and that's obviously a short drive.
Yeah.
And you see the crew from Saginaw Heritage show up because they figure that somewhere down the road it's conceivable that they could run into either DeWitt or East Lansing. So they were interested in what was going on, and quite frankly, it was just a big matchup between 2 teams that had a combined total of 1 loss going into Monday night, and that loss was the earlier game, East Lansing and DeWitt. That was the only loss that either team had so far. So it was one of those games that people wanted to see.
Yeah, we have to remember, too, that districts for girls now are 2 weeks away.
Back, yep.
It's one of these things you got to train your mind. Boys start next week, so we're going to start eliminating teams in the boys' side next week. Girls are the week after that. Girls final all the way pushed back to March 23rd, which is usually the boys' weekend. So that's what's happening there. One team we have not, and again, we kind of mentioned this off camera, is that we really haven't talked maybe enough about Wayne Memorial this year, what that team is. Granted, you went to see them against a Heartland team that was down.
Yeah.
Maybe their 2 best players
two of their top 4 scorers were gone. And ball handlers that you're going to need against Wayne, and so they were kind of handicapped in that sense. But
say nothing else, Wayne is a team that is as good as anybody.
Yeah, when you can tie a Miss Basketball candidate behind your back because Janae Terry, weirdest thing I've ever seen, picked up 4 first quarter fouls. The last 2 on charges, Jarvis put her back in there, to do a last second shot to try to hold for the last shot, thinking we're on offense. She's not going to pick up a foul. And she drives down the lane and picks up a second charge in a row. And all of a sudden, she's sitting on the bench for the majority of the rest of the game. She didn't come back until mid-fourth quarter. So at that point, you've got, your best player, and the other team's missing 2 of their, top 3 or 4 players.
Yeah.
And it's it turned into kind of a messy game, and you kind of figured it would. But that's the thing I don't think that people appreciate about Wayne Memorial. Everybody knew how good Cam Clegg was last year, and she was a legitimate, Miss Basketball candidate, Miss Basketball runner-up.
Yep.
And everybody, when you lose a player like that, I think people unfairly sometimes think, oh, well, they're done for a little while. They're going to have to rebuild.
Yep.
Not a whole lot of rebuilding.
Right.
Just move up their next Miss Basketball candidate in Janae Terry.
Yes.
And that's a deep team that's got 6 kids with Division I offers. It's got 3 kids with BCS level offers. That's a really, really good team. There are a lot of teams that, you lose your top 3 or 4 players from a given year, and you're going to go through a little rebuilding. But legitimately, this Wayne team has kind of flown under the radar, probably unfairly, because people kind of were going to expect that they were down a little bit this year, given the fact that they lost a Miss Basketball runner-up. And the KLA East is not one where there are a whole bunch of real concentrated, tough matchups. But they played everybody they could in the non-conference. They played Edison twice. They played Williamston. They played Whitney Young from Chicago, one of the traditional powerhouses in Illinois. They packed that non-conference schedule as much as they could, and now they're getting to the end of the KLA season where they're going to play a Heartland and they're going to play a Brighton, and they're going to hope that that's the part that gets them ready for the postseason, because they're looking to kind of do what they did last year and make a run. It's kind of interesting that this Heartland-Wayne rivalry is kind of, it's not a heated rivalry, certainly, because they only end up meeting each other either in the KLA tournament or in the MHSAA tournament, but they meet pretty regularly. Yeah. Heartland won the KLA tournament by beating Wayne 2 years ago, and then Wayne beat them in the KLA semifinals, and then again in the quarterfinals, and now they meet again in the semis. So it's one of those where pretty routinely, these two teams kind of end up hooking up in the postseason.
Well, similarly, we have Detroit Edison, which is a very similar program. Rikia Jackson's going to be gone next year, but when you look at was it Gabby Elliott? Okay, Gabby was unbelievable. On Monday, I went out to Edison. Rikia was surprised with her McDonald's All-American jersey. We did an interview with her. She's a super trip. And we're going to have a nice In Focus feature on state champs this week on Rikia, and where she kind of what makes her tick. Mm-hmm. And her coach was funny. Her coach is like a second mom to her, and very much because of the relationship that she has with Rikia's mom, and how far it goes back to playing days, softball days, and it's pretty fun. But watching Elliott, sticking around and watching the half of that game, you can see that, Elliott is. In fact, the McDonald's people who were chatting with were like, "Boy, that." I tell them who it was. They're like, she is really good, as Rikia was, of course.
And that's what happens sometimes when you have a Miss Basketball candidate who is a dominant presence, like Clegg was for Wayne last year and like Rikia is this year. Some other kids kind of aren't able to show necessarily, their full spectrum of talents. And next year is going to be Gabby's turn to be kind of the star of the show, because she is a super talented kid too. Yes. But sometimes, when you're the second kid in the pecking order,
the Robin to the Batman.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. The sidekick in some respects.
Yes.
You kind of get, you kind of have to defer to the senior star sometimes, and that ends up being, you don't get quite as much attention, and then you get your turn to shine.
And if it ends up being, and only history will tell if Rikia is the GOAT.
Right.
Here, I mean, that's not a bad person to be runner-up to if that's how it should end up playing out when everything is said and done. Wayne and Edison won't play in the playoffs because they're in two different divisions, which, you kind of would hope that would be where they'd get together. But again, they have played twice this year, and both teams have to kind of stack their offseason because, unfortunately, it's just not very competitive. And the PSL right now just isn't that strong as it has been in years past. So good on them. Quickly before we go, any movement in the rankings?
A little bit of movement in the rankings, and again, Detroit Edison ends up playing everybody that they possibly can. Yeah. So you see a whole bunch of teams whose only losses are to Edison.
Right.
So
yes, which is hilarious.
So you've got some up and down movement, and there wasn't a whole lot. We popped Brighton back into the top 10 and in Division 1. Isham and Westwood, one of the teams in the UP that's had a stellar season at 17-1 coming into the week, popped into the Division 3 rankings. It's just kind of interesting when you're looking at the way the rankings changed from Class A to now the classes to divisions now. That Division 2, now that DEPSA, popped up into Division 2, they're really the powerhouse in that division. And then you look at Division 1 is stacked, and Division 3 is stacked, and Division 2 is kind of wide open because there aren't quite as many contenders, especially with a team like a Country Day being a little bit down, and like a Michigan Center was a B school that went all the way to the semifinals last year. And now they're down in Division 3. So when you get some movement like that, it's a little interesting to see how those divisions are different than the classes.
Right.
So not a ton of movement. There'll be a little bit more this week because we had the 3-4 matchups, and we had the Heartland Wayne matchups, and with some of the conference tournaments, you're starting to get a little bit of that. So probably that next ranking is where you'll see the movement up and down of some of those teams.
Okay, fantastic. You can check it out at statechampsnetwork.com. Of course, follow Matt on social media. Your girls basketball Twitter handle again?
Full court coverage.
Full court coverage.
Yeah.
Super easy.
Yeah.
And again, he sees a lot of girls basketball games. So this is the guy to listen to when because he sees it all. And we've got a lot of super exciting next couple of weeks happening again with all the league championships. We're going to have some crossovers and some things of that nature. That will be taking place. So still some great basketball before we get to the playoffs. And then, of course, we're off and running in a few weeks. Officially, March 4th is the first district date. So we're right around the corner. I mean, it's February 20th.
It's coming.
It's there, son. February is a short month. So we'll be there soon. So once again, thank you, Matt. And make sure you check out everything he does. Again, his features and everything at statechampsnetwork.com. Follow him on Twitter, and he's also very active in helping us with our social media in its entirety. So we are indebted to him, and it is all good for the game. So stick around. We're going to come back. Dan Young and TJ Kelley are going to sit down here and discuss kind of the whole summer team camp reaching higher kind of thing that is causing a lot of, I guess, controversy and conversation. So we'll let these guys kind of have at it, and you make sure if you are a Hoops fan, you want to check this out. That is
So, I got my start in officiating when a friend told me I should try it. At first, I just did basketball, and I got hooked. Before long, I added baseball, softball, football, and volleyball. I really enjoy giving back to the game, working with kids, and working with my local association to recruit and train new officials. I would like to say to anybody that officiating is a great way to help kids and stay connected to the game. We always need new officials. There's help wanted, just listen.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Hangtime, Michigan. Derek Blaylock in the house now, producer of the show. We also have to give our props to Kia Tyus, who of course is in the room and deals with us each and every week. You can't see her this moment, but she is a gem, and we appreciate everybody here at Yellow Flag. With that said, I know that we planned on having the BCAM segment here, but since it was pre-recorded, it is long. So it's about almost 30 minutes of discussion between Dan Young and TJ Kelley, and really talking about the recruitment period of what's happening right now in basketball, how they've got set national dates in June when that can happen. And really in Michigan, we're just going to have one event this year. Anyway, it's a pretty fascinating conversation. If you're a coach, if you're a kid, if you're a parent, if you really want to know what is happening as far as nationally and as far as D1 coaches getting a chance to look at kids in the summer, you need to listen to the next conversation. That is going to be coming up next, right after this. And again, you can just kind of take it in, and if you have comments, you can make those on social media. But Derek's here because we encourage you guys. Now, normally we kind of go and fish for some clips, and we would have those up right now, but because this show's running a little long, we're not going to do that. But if we've got a lot of big games coming up, tournament title games, we've got district playoffs for boys starting next week, so we'll already be able to talk district playoffs. We want you to send like really cool clips, game-winning clips, big sweet plays to Derek. Derek, how do they do it?
Absolutely. You can tweet at us, StateChampsNet, on Twitter, or email them to me. Derek at yellowflagproductions.com. Once again, that's Derek, D-E-R-E-K, at yellowflagproductions.com. And those are the two ways to do it. That's
right. We're getting into the real meat of Hangtime now. We'll have another month going on now, but I think the girls end at the end of March 23rd or something. So we're going to run all of March, and you know what March is? It's madness, and it's magic, and it's awesome for all basketball fans. High school, college, you name it, pros. So anyway, do that. Stick around. The BCAM segment is next, and it's really cool, and it's very informative. So if you've been wondering about all that we just mentioned, check it out. Ding, ding. Welcome to... No, I'm just kidding. Welcome back to Hangtime Michigan here. Dan Young's here, TJ Kelley here. And I think one of the purposes and one of the great reasons we have this forum is that we can take something that is happening in high school basketball and we can talk about it. And we can actually give it a few minutes so that there can be some context and some back and forth. And basically, as we've shown earlier on podcasts, is when we were talking about reaching higher. And then we're also talking about Division I coaches and their access and having team camps and things being limited just to June and things of this nature. So we've got both these guys. TJ, of course, has got the pulse of what's happening with a lot of coaches and with a lot of basketball, the year-round basketball, AAU, what have you. And then, of course, Dan Young, Executive Director for BCAM. So this is great for us. And
we're both E25 guys, Michigan Elite 25 guys.
That's right.
There we go right there.
That's right. We fight the good fight together.
And,
yes.
And that's all we're doing, right? Is trying to do what's best for the game and deal with the dealt and the cards that have been dealt.
Sure.
So, Dan, why don't you start?
With where we're at?
Where we're at right now or I can have TJ start, where we're at right now in terms of, team camps. Let's start there and why they're not happening.
Okay, so when Condoleezza Rice's group formed, said they were going to move it into where there is a problem, then formed another committee, a basketball ad hoc committee, which includes Tom Izzo, Greg Campy, Calipari, Jay Wright, and others. There's a lot on that group. Then the NCAA gave the autonomy to the National Federation of High Schools to govern June events. When this was coming down the pike, I tried to reach out to our Division I coaches who ran team camps and who had events in June. So having been a high school coach for 25 years, the month of June was heavy summer league ball, events at your own high schools against other teams, and then going to Oakland, Central, Michigan, Michigan State, and others, and getting the best matchups you could and getting through that July 4th period. And then most times the kids would go to their club group in July and travel. And so they'd get a great summer, a full June, and then a full July, and then they'd come back, get ready for fall sports. So when this was coming around that it could be moved to June, I talked to Greg Campy.
I talk to mainly coaches in our state, Division I coaches that do camps. And we had thought before the rules came out that they would be able to run their team camps still. And we have a strong team camp culture. And then they were saying to us, we'll run our team camps if this is what's going to happen. And then maybe you do the one-day showcase like you've always done on a Sunday, either the last Sunday of the month or the other Sunday, which would have been the 23rd.
Yeah. We're talking about reaching higher. That's the showcase.
So that's where we were going on. They have strong team camps that are breadwinners. The money goes back to their programs, especially your mid-major schools. And so
more the Division IIs and Division IIIs.
Yeah, we were so
AIs.
And us high school guys that run events that really weren't about money. It was more about saving money to get competition. But needless to say, that was the original thought. Then the word was coming out that it could not be run at Division I institutions. So we were stuck in where, we have our reaching higher. We're going to try to get it on one of the Sundays, okay? And that was the goal. Even to this date, we are still, it's just coming out on what the actual rules are. So up till the last, yesterday, and I got it last night from the MHSAA, they got it, I believe, yesterday or Monday.
Yeah, we're speaking Tuesday. We're recording this on Wednesday. Show airs Thursday.
So we didn't know what the actual rules are as far as who can work the camps. What are we going to have to do as far as certification process, the application process? None of that was organized or out yet. So all of that being said, obviously I'm getting lots of calls from a lot of my good friends who are high school coaches who we've had great dialogue. Yeah. And in a perfect world, we would like to do everything that everybody wants to do, but I think it's just going to take some time to figure out what's going to be best. We're close to having an event being crystallized on April 17th, where we're going to bring in all 7-1 Division I coaches into Detroit, and with Horatio Williams, he puts on an event every year, and we thought maybe we should get these guys in the same room, and I can get them with some of our board people and our high school coaches in a private room, and we can discuss these things and say, all right, right now here's what we're doing. But what do you want next year? If it is a showcase one weekend, a team camp the other weekend, and that's what you want, then I would take it back to the MHSAA. And again, all of this is volunteer now. There's we're going to lose money if on any event we run, because we're going to charge the minimum we can. We're going to all the coaches are going to be volunteers. We're going to have to nobody's going to make any money on any of these events. And we do not get any money, zero money from the NCAA. The NCAA's July period, where they're going to have the four regional sites, they're flying in the families and their kids and keep putting them up for 3 days. It's going to be millions and millions of dollars spent.
That's for the July period.
For the July camp regional, national regional. Millions and millions of dollars spent. We're not getting any money to run our events in June. So that's a factor right now. Could there be some small stipends down the road from the NCAA when they realize that in a huge state, if you're going to run a team camp in Texas, you can only charge $200 a team, and you're going to stay overnight? How are you possibly going to make that work? I don't know. Those types of things are all, we're trying to sift through it. And so right now, that's where we're at. And, if you guys want to have more dialogue about it, there's a lot of great things we can do. But with the timing and the fact that we have established team camp culture in our current colleges that we have, The feeling was to do a one-day event this year and then evaluate it. And then here's the piece with the girls. This has been mandated for the boys. The girls is what are we going to do for the girls? Why shouldn't they have a June period? Well, we're getting ahead of it, and some of the other states are too. We're going to do girls at the same time as well, in hopes that the NCAA will say, well, we should do this for the girls too in June. Why? We know why the boys, we're doing it for the boys. Everybody knows why. But, in the long run, we're going to try to get everything locked in at the same time. Helps with cost as well, because we thought about running a girls in July, boys in June. Now you're talking 2 different dates, twice as much cost because of the facilities and all that types of things when it comes to manpower. So, I wish I could be perfectly honest that this has really been something that we've tried to do well, but it really is, it really is going to be a trial and error for the first summer, and then we're gonna make it great. Trust me, we're gonna eventually get what everybody would want to get, and I'll do everything in my power to make it work. But that's where we're at this point.
Yeah, I just wish that the NCAA would have at least got some. Let's say this. I understand what the NCAA is trying to do, and I think it's huge. All right, you're coaching at John Glenn, and all of a sudden Roberts comes back, or Mike Edwards. They come back after summer. Hey, coach, I got 5 offers. Well, a lot of that you might have been kept out of the loop, just because. Whether coaches are directly contacting that player that they're recruit themselves, or they're recruiting their AAU or the grassroots
whoever's
coach.
Going through.
Yeah, and whoever's going through. And my thing is, I think that what the NCAA is allowing is to give you guys. They're saying, hey, here's a winning lottery ticket. Scratch this, scratch that, and scratch this. Don't scratch this, and you will not lose. You won't win. So I love that the NCAA did that, and I think it's a great opportunity for everybody to be on the same page.
I know,
which I think is essential just for raising our youth. As long as the adults are on the same page and they go and agree. I don't know. I imagine there are a lot of parents out there and stuff like that. Nah, don't ask me. Go ask your dad. Or go ask your mom. Mm-hmm. We've already talked. We're 10 steps ahead of you on this. Right. We already knew you were going to ask that question and stuff like that, but you're not going to play one versus the other. And I kind of look at it like that. And as long as the coaches are on the same page, I think it's healthy for the state of Michigan, or let's say the state of basketball. And in saying that, I wish that they would have had a blueprint before they decided, all right, we're going to go to June 21st through the 23rd. We're going to go to June 28th to the 30th, because what I'm afraid of is that with these 6 allotted days for only to use...
Not really 6. It's 6 p.m. on those Fridays.
Well, the 3 days...
So 2...
it's not a total 72 hours.
Yeah, it's not 6 full days. It's 6 p.m. on a Friday.
It's 6 p.m. to 10 p.m.
4 p.m.
on Sunday.
Yep. So it's not 3 full days. It's
right.
2... It's 2 in a night.
Mm-hmm. And I think that the last game has to tip off at 10 o'clock or something like that on Saturday night. At least that's why they do it on the AAU, on the grassroots circuit. I don't want any guys in Orlando getting ticked off at me or anything like that. But in saying that, I wish. Too late. Yeah, but I wish that. Well, there are some AAU teams and stuff like that. Some real.
If Orlando is actually watching our show, then we're doing great.
Yes. But I wish that they would have maybe said, all right, is this plan going to work? Is this plan going to work?
Right.
So that so many people, so many organizations, like
there's no question,
and whether it be Indiana, Illinois, so that everyone's like, all right, this is going to work. We've got 5 different blueprints. These states can test this one out. You can test this one out. And then in 2020 or 2021, then we can say, and everybody gets together and say, hey, this worked great for us. And you kind of iron out the wrinkles and stuff like that, so that it can be the most efficient program as possible. And I think that that's one thing that they don't do in the certified July events that are ran by a lot of grassroots teams or programs or individuals, because it's kind of like we're all going to fight for our own.
Right.
I would I kind of put together a proposal that I sent out. One thing that I would like to see, just to make it balanced for everybody, is that if you pay your $200 for team camp, which you have to cover the referees. I think that's one of the some facilities they'll be able to say, hey, we can get it at a lower rate. Other facilities will say, well, it's going to cost this, and so obviously we want to be the high school athletics association and those involved want to be involved in the most cost effective gyms that they can be. In saying that, I think that if the days are not taken advantage of, I'm afraid that a lot of these tournament directors are going to go to the NCAA and they're going to say,
"What do you mean tournament directors? Who do you mean by tournament directors?"
Certified tournament directors for like when they have them in April. Like there's a
grassroots ball.
Yeah, grassroots basketball, and so they're going to say, "Look, we lost days. They didn't take advantage of the days that they were given. It's hurting us." And they're not. And what they're going to do is they're going to point the finger. I mean, they've already started pointing the finger.
They're all pointed anyway.
Yeah, just because they're going to. Hey, it is what it is. They're losing money, and so anybody who's losing money, they're going to say, hey, that's not right. It's almost like, hey, but I want to put this in my hot dogs.
It was a multi-million-dollar industry that has been
billions.
I'm just a high school basketball coach who helps try to help a state. So I don't know. But there's a lot of money involved.
Yes.
And
I just don't want those guys to come out and say, point the finger.
Oh,
and then try to have everything flipped before everything can be set and say, hey, this is what we're doing in 2020.
Our thing is that we've got great, the fact that BCAM has college coaches on our, as part of our membership, to be able to go in and talk to Coach Izzo and talk to Coach Campy and Coach Beeline and their staff. And Coach Hawkins and just met Mike Davis and Keno Davis and talk to these guys is that we're going to eventually in our state do what they want us to do. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
And so that's going to continually be my message to everyone in our state is that this is for the kids that are going to play for those guys.
I would even go further than that because they're going to be recruited by everybody.
Yeah. But as far as our state and how we would and get that plan in place, and if that means this or that means that will be what we'll try to do. But just the way things have gone so far with not knowing the rules until just recently and here say this, and we're just now getting into looking at the process of how it's going to go after the events are done and what that's going to entail. It's going to be a year one, evaluate, and then regroup. But I'm really excited about getting the 7 guys together and hearing what they have to say, and then getting on a round table in front of our coaches in Detroit on April 17th. It's real close to being finalized, and I think that would be really good to say, hey, here are the things we do really well in our state, but here's how we can improve and get kids excited about being in our state, staying in our state, and grinding and getting better, and in the long run, it really working out for them. So
help me out here for a sec, just if there's someone who is kind of lost a little in the fog of what's going on. So the certified periods now are the 21st or 23rd. You said it's like 2.5 days. That's what.
So it's Friday. It's Friday at 4 o'clock. Friday at 6 o'clock.
Right on June 21st on
to the Sunday, the 23rd at 4 o'clock, and then the following weekend same thing.
Right.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Right. And so right now, all there is just reaching higher.
So here's how it works.
That's all that's allowed.
The NCAA gave the autonomy or the control or the governing body of the June events to the National Federation of High Schools.
Yeah.
Michigan, we are 99.9% National Federation. We're all under that umbrella.
Okay.
So the National Fed sends the rules to the MHSAA office, which got there this week.
Yeah.
Then they meet with us, BCAM, and say, da-da-da-da-da, here are the rules. So the MHSAA is going to be the governing body. The National Federation, whether they wanted it or didn't want it, have it. The MHSAA, whether they wanted it or didn't want it, it's now in their lap.
Yeah.
And BCAM is the organized basketball association that will run the events for them. Now, if we're in a state, this just came out.
Yeah.
If you're in New York or Texas and you're a part of a national organization, but you're not a part of the National Federation, they're going to allow you to run events, but you cannot run events jointly with the National Federation. So in New York, they can run an event, but New York City has to run a separate event. So that is tearing apart the BCAMs of New York and the BCAMs of Texas and North Carolina.
So they can't compete against each other?
They can't work.
So if you're in Ithaca, New York, you can't play
because
Brooklyn,
of
PS.
So
whatever.
you heard that New York, if you're not in the National Federation of High Schools, you can't run events.
Mm.
We went to our college coaches and said, "Is this really what you want?" So Zion Williamson, he went to a private school in South Carolina. He wouldn't be allowed to go to
shouldn't have gone to private school.
So because he's not part of the National Federation of High Schools.
Right.
So now we're hearing that they're going to allow, if they're part of the National High School Basketball Coaches Association, which is what we're a part of as well. The calls I'm on every weekend, those conference calls, those are the guys. We're all trying to fight the good fight.
Yeah.
They're saying, well, yeah, they can run an event as long as they're a member of, but they can't run those events together. So the National Federation and in New York City, their kids can't play against one another. They can't run a joint events. So again, when you don't have the finances, how can you run separate events, but yet it's making it very difficult for us high school guys to do these types of things. In our state, we're all national feds, so it works out. But in other states, it's still going to be very difficult to run events. So,
but you can still charge the teams. Let's say this.
But BCAM.
Yeah.
So let's say New York is Michigan. Mm-hmm. The DPS, public schools in Detroit, they in New York are in a separate association. They play for a different state championship. And then your privates in New York, like Country Day and Catholic Central and Divine Child, UAD, they're a separate association. They play for their own state championships. And then there's the rest of the state. So there's 3 associations. This association is National Fed. We can run an event. Now they're saying if they're a part of a high school organization, they can run an event. Can't run an event together. So you can see how...
But does that affect Michigan?
No, it doesn't affect us, but I'm saying that in states of New York, they still might not run an event because of all the governing bodies types of things that are causing them to not run events together. Yeah. And when you run separate events on separate days, separate weekends, what does that do? It adds to the cost. And high school organizations, if you can only charge $200 a team, now when you go to a team camp, is it always just $200 or
no?
People charge $450.
Yeah, Oakland University charges like $600.
Well, I thought it was $450.
Well, let's say it's $250.
And he gives a lot of games, and he gives, and he's built it up. So, but for $200, if you have a huge state, for $200, that's going to be difficult to cover costs, especially when you start going multiple days. So when you say we want multiple day events, now you're staying overnight. Now for $200, it's almost impossible to run. Michigan might be able to pull it off, but when I speak for the whole country. New York, Texas, and those states that are not going to run events, because it's just too difficult financially to do these types of things. It's just really frustrating.
I've kind of looked at it like, well, we obviously both talked to a bunch of high school coaches and stuff like that.
We've been in dialogue, and that's what we should do. Guys should call us
and hashing it out and stuff like that, and just trying to make it.
I'm telling you where we're at, but I'm also telling you we're going to evaluate and we're going to look at things in 2020 and beyond for sure.
Yeah, because some of the guys that I've talked to, like for example, I've talked to George Ward, I've talked to Keith Guy, and I've talked to TJ Meerman, for example.
I've talked to those same 3 guys. Yeah.
So, and then some of those guys I've said, like, play Friday. If I'm King, I'm playing in Detroit. On Saturday, we could stay at home. On Saturday, we can go to play in Grand Rapids, and then we could come back to Detroit. So I'm just trying to figure out different ways to work with the hotels. But from going from one place to another, I mean, I kind of also look at it from the grassroots certified events where they charge $650 a team, and kids always come up with it. The money always shows up for it. If you wanted to say, hey, kid, would you like to play in front of a Division I coach? It's going to cost you $25. You know, I'm sure there are a lot of parents that would say, that sounds like a good investment to me. Hey, $25 and I'm going to see my kid for the weekend? Get out of here. I mean, I'm just not. We all love our kids, right? Yes, no, but I'm just saying. But at the same time, I think that there's money that can be drawn up. I'm not sure why they were only limiting it to $200. I also have heard that. So we're all familiar with the ever so popular coaches packets. I know that college coaches love buying those packets.
150 max.
They love going to EYBL tournaments and paying $400 for the packet. And then they go to Adidas and pay another $400. And then they go to Under Armour and they pay another $400. And that's over the course of 5 days. My thing is, if they're maxing it out at $150, I think that that their college coaches are going to be ecstatic about it. I don't think that it's really that tough to gather all the information from. If I go to every single one of my players and say, I need you to write down your address, I need you to write down your Twitter, I need you to write down your phone number, and here's the high school coaches.
And your grades and your ACT.
Yeah, well, that's even what AAUs don't. AAU, I mean, grassroots programs, they don't cover the
academic part of it.
The academic part, and I think that's
can you qualify? What are your
grades?
High
school coaches
what's your
to be
ACT
involved
score? Because
you guys are in the school, and so therefore, when somebody calls and says, "I want the transcripts," they're not allowed to. I mean, unless they have grassroots coaches in the school, I can't call up and say, "Hey, what's Joe Smith's core GPA, what's his overall GPA, and what's his test score?" They're going to say, who are you? Oh, I'm just a regular guy just calling off the street. And that's one thing where the importance of having high school coaches involved. And one thing that I also like about the high schools is that they have far more practice than with the grassroots programs. It's not an individual event. And when players a lot of the times look better it's prior preparation prevents poor performance. And that's what the high school practices can bring along. And so everybody just looks that much better. I think it opens up a lot of doors for having high school coaches, for having June certified periods for high school team camps, because now all of a sudden a college coach can say, oh, yeah, wow, this is great. I think a lot of high school coaches
That's originally what we thought it was going to look like, is that they would allow colleges to run their own team camps. Well, and then we would run a one-day event to bring it all together.
But I think that they would also cause them to compete, where it's easier for BCAM to say, hey, look, this is what everybody's going to be on. You got to pay your $100 or you got to pay your $200 to make sure we're covering refs. For the vast majority of all the high school coaches in the state of Michigan, they're on the same page. It's all about the kids and stuff like that, and making the state of Michigan better. On the grassroots scene, those guys are going after. Everybody wants the family. Everybody wants the Michigan Mustangs. Everybody wants the Reach program. Everybody, and they're, and I'm going to say it. I mean, it's financially driven. Where I think a lot of with high school coaches,
it's not financially driven.
It's not
financially.
We don't
make any money, right?
It's morally driven.
It's about the development. Volunteers.
It's about the development of.
And how many coaches in the summer have worked forever in their life in the summer, and we're not getting paid?
Yeah,
we're working guys out in the mornings. And then we're going to summer league in the afternoon or night, and we're going to universities all over the country to try to get our, not all over the country, but Midwest.
300 miles.
You're in the summer, and you're doing it because you want to have a good team, and you're trying to help your guys, and that's where we're all coming from. I'll be interested to see what our college coaches in our state would like us to do after this year, because we're going to be all ears on what they would want.
And in saying that, like I look at like Oakland's team camp. The only Division I coaches that are there are Oakland University. Now, if they're only taking 2 or 3 guys per year per graduating class onto their staff, but they're bringing 1,000 or let's say 100 teams, you're watching 1,000 kids. Well, 997 of them are going to be out in the dark. Whereas you have a certified event, let's say it's at Westland John Glenn. Well, if you get 50 coaches that are there, then that just broadens the opportunities for a lot of kids to be seen and just not recruited by Oakland University. You know, shoot, if my parents went to University of Detroit and I said, hey, Mom, Dad, I got an offer from Oakland University, they're going to say, great, we can't wait for that University of Detroit offer because that's where you're going to walk on. You're not going to go to Oakland University. I just know that there are parents that their kids out there that kind of have that legacy feeling, you know, it's MSU or bust, you know, and so
hey, if you get offered,
yeah. Well, I'm just saying,
whoever loves you,
I'm all about
give them just as much love back because.
Well, some people aren't stressing about $200,000 or $100,000 on college tuition like other people are.
Yeah,
you know,
whoever loves you, love them back.
Some people
because
are
that
more
might be
picky
the best
because
place
of that.
for you. Yeah,
right.
So I mean, we're all on the same page. We all want what's best. It's going to be a process. We're listening, and we're going to put on a great event this summer, and then we're going to. You know, I'm really interested to see in April to talk to the coaches and see what they have to say.
Month after St. Patrick's Day, right? April 17th?
Yep. I've talked to a lot of high school coaches already. We've had lots of dialogue here at State Champs, which is just a great place to have a good roundtable discussion face-to-face, and people can hear, you know, the things that we're all trying to go through and to make things better. And so it's been really good.
True,
all right.
True. Cool.
All right. Well, we're almost 30 minutes into this
we're
thing.
Good.
So
we're good.
Good conversation. Yeah. I think maybe what we do is we can do a special off-season version of Hang Time maybe after this April meeting, and if it's allowed to kind of talk about some of the things that were discussed. Perhaps?
Yeah, we're excited to get those guys in the room, and it hasn't been totally finalized, but it's very, very close, and I'm pretty sure it's going to happen. And we're going to have open dialogue on stage. Tim McCormick's going to MC it, but yet I'd obviously like to get some private conversations with the group to see what they think and what they would want as they look at, you know, how they are going to be recruiting and what dates they have and how they want to take advantage of how they're evaluating kids. So.
All right, great. Well, then what we'll do is we'll keep you updated. And again, you know, if you're watching this on social media, feel free to comment. We can discuss these throughout kind of the rest of the
We'll try to answer your questions as they come about.
Absolutely, for sure.
Great.
So if it's Facebook, if it's Twitter, if it's YouTube, go ahead. We'll try to aggregate those responses. If you have some, otherwise, if you just enjoy the conversation, then say, okay, I see where things are at right now, and sure, I want to see things this way or that way. But I know that. It's not something that's just being thrown. It's just being tossed aside. The discussion continues, and we will react accordingly.
At the end of the day,
we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yes. Right. All right. Beautiful. All right. So again, I'm going to put this at the end of Hang Time since it has such it's its own animal. So we'll kind of wrap up the show right here with that, and again, that way people can just consume it on its own or. Stick to more of the regular hoops talk. So, again, thanks for being a part. And, again, we want to continue to do this stuff. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.